Guys, it's me, Danny. Osa is right here, and we are very ready to talk about the thing that matters right now, the World Cup. And we have so many things that we want to say. And here is the thing, and very important. I want to make sure that my friends, my American friends that don't follow the World Cup, are still informed and up to date with what is going on during this World Cup and that is happening here in the US and Mexico and Canada. And so I am going to make one video a week until the end of the World Cup, just keeping you update, telling you who's winning, telling you what's going on, what are the stories that matter. This is a promise. I will make a video per week, giving updates of the World Cup. And then if I have time left during the week, I might make a little small video about something else. No promises there, but we will be talking all about this World Cup for the next month. So let's get down to it. Because the World Cup began last Thursday, June 11, the opening ceremony happened in Mexico City in one mythical Estadio Azteca. It was so beautiful. It had Lila Down was the one that made the opening ceremony, and there was a lot of folkloric dancers. There was a lot of indigenous references, and that was beautiful. And then Mana came out and sang Oye mi amor, and then there was J Balvin in a car. And then Shakira allegedly was there too, according to Shakira, because everyone says that was not Shakira. She didn't look like Shakira, but the official story says that Shakira was present at the opening ceremony in Mexico City. And then, of course, we got down to the game itself. The two countries opening the World Cup was Mexico and South Africa. And they, as they usually do at the beginning of a match, they sang the national anthems of each country. And obviously, our legend, our one and only Alejandro Fernandez, El Potrillo, sang the national anthem of Mexico, and it was beautiful. And we were all tearing up. And then the game got started, and Mexico won. Woo! Mexico won. They won 2-0 with goals by Julian Quiñones and Raul Jimenez, both from Club America. Of course, everyone knew that would happen. And very interesting, Julian Quiñones is a Colombian born soccer player who chose to represent Mexico. He naturalized Mexican, and now he represents us. And he is not the only one in our national team to be from another country. We also have Alvaro Fidalgo from Spain and Brian Gutierrez, who is right here from Chicago. He is from Berwyn. He is of Mexican parents, and so he chose to play for the Mexican national team. He also plays for Chivas right now. So that is that. But Mexico won, and that was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I was very happy. And then later that night, so, real quick, the World Cup, the teams, the 48 countries that are being a part of this World Cup are broken up into groups of four, and they go by letters. So it is like Group A, Group B, Group C, and on until they cover all 48 teams. And right now they're in the group stages. So everyone is going to play three matches before they eliminate the bottom two that end up in their groups, right? So the ones that don't score that much or that lose the most, the last two games of each group will be the ones going home. But for now, everyone is playing, everyone is going to play three matches. And so right now, Mexico is Group A. Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and Czechia. And so the game that happened later that night on Thursday was South Korea and Czechia. And South Korea won against Czechia 2-1. And they say I was not in a good state to watch that game anymore, but I did watch the first part of the game and it seemed pretty boring. So I went to sleep. And then apparently the second half of that game was like the most interesting thing that ever happened. And that's when all three goals got scored. And they say to look out for South Korea. Apparently they're good. Apparently they might give a surprise. So Mexico plays them this upcoming Thursday, and we're all so worried. But I think it's gonna be a great game. And South Koreans have been having a great time in Guadalajara, in the state of Mexico, where South Korea is staying, and they're playing, and their fans are coming out, and just the videos that are coming out of that, of them enjoying Guadalajara, has been beautiful. And I think tomorrow we're going to have a great game. So, very, very exciting. And then on Friday, it was a turn for Group B. So, there was another opening. Canada had an opening ceremony. I don't know a lot about it, but I know Michael Bublé was there, and I know Jessie Reyes, and Jessie Reyes was there. She's Canadian, and she's pretty cool. And then the game happened, and Canada and Bosnia Herzegovina, and that was a tie, 1-1. Pretty exciting, you know. Now, the US is not in Group B, they are in Group D, but because they're the host city, they're the host country, they also had to have their match on Friday. So we took a break from Group B and we moved straight to Group D. USA against Paraguay, and the US won that game. Yay. That was a 4-1, and no one saw that coming, to be honest. And I'm sorry, but to be honest, unfortunately, one of the goals scored by the US was an autogol by Paraguay. Damian Bobadilla scored a goal against his own team, and that was pretty sad. It was probably an accident. People get nervous, you know, when they're in a world stage sometimes. But they also had goals by the Americans, Giovanni Reina and Folarin Bolagun also scored, and the final was 4-1. So if you're American, be very happy. Your team is doing well. Um, and then we're back to Group B on Saturday. Qatar and Switzerland had the first game of the day, and they were a 1-1 tie. 1-1 tie. And then, of course, it was the Brazil Morocco, and that one was a surprise because they tied 1-1. And Brazil, who is the champion, who has won 5 World Cups, the most World Cups that any country has won, has not been doing very well recently. They were expected to win this game, but they ended a tie 1-1 against Morocco. And Brazil right now, here's a little story. In the World Cup, in the last World Cup in Qatar, so they were going to do a press conference, and a cat showed up, and a cat was laying on the table where they were going to do their press conference. And one of the people from Brazil just grabbed the cat and threw it like off the table, just like grabbed it and threw it. And since then, it's believed that Brazil has a curse that was placed by that cat that was hurt by this person from the Brazilian team. And that is how they have been explaining how bad it has been going for them since then, because they haven't won anything. They have been losing a lot. They tied this game that they were expected to win, and so that is believed to be the reason why. That is a theory out there, but Brazil and they're in a tie. That was a surprise for everyone. And then again from Group C, we have Haiti and Scotland, and Scotland won that 1-0. And that was not a surprise. And then from Group D, Australia and Turkey played. Australia won, and that makes me a little sad because I enjoy Turkish dramas very much. So I really like Turkey, and I kind of follow them, but they lost. But hopefully, they will get to win a game. They will get somewhere. Hopefully, praying for them. On Sunday, June 14, it was the turn for Germany and Curacao, and what was expected of Germany happened. They won 7-1, and that was kind of sad, but not too sad because Curacao was super happy. They scored their first game in their first match of a World Cup, and that made them really happy. They got to celebrate very much, almost like they had won the game. So that was good for them. They were very happy. They scored their goal, and for a couple of like, what they were saying is that for like a good 20 minutes of the match, they were equal with Germany. They were like 1-1 until Germany started scoring several more goals, but they were very happy with the goal that they scored. And that is the nice thing about this sport, and when these World Cups happen, is that sometimes the small countries that are not expected to win, they will do something amazing, something incredible, and they will act like they did something great, and everyone gets really happy about it. And more of that later. But for right now, we will leave it at Germany and Curacao 7-1. And following after that, it was Netherlands and Japan, which was a very interesting match, a very, very interesting. They ended on a tie 2-2, and Netherlands right now is one of the favorites to win the tournament. But Japan was up there with them, and they said that Japan is someone to look out for because apparently their team is really, really trying hard, and they might be the dark horse of this competition. So there is that. And now the next game, Ecuador and Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast beat Ecuador 1-0, and that I don't know if it was a surprise or not. Maybe it was. I mean, Ecuador is from the CONMEBOL, and they don't do that bad, but I don't know what happened. I guess they lost, but that was that. And then it was a Sweden Tunisia, and that one was really sad. I watched that game that Sunday night, and they ended a 5-1, unfortunately. And I was watching the game, and at the beginning, everyone was celebrating, everyone in the stadium. I could see it from TV, like they would show shots of the stadium, and everyone was super happy. And as Sweden started scoring goals, everyone started kind of like getting sad and getting sad. And so, yeah, it was a 5-1. So that was kind of really sad. But there is that. And then on Monday happened what nobody was expecting, a surprise. What everyone has been talking about since then, it was the turn for Spain to debut, and they were expected to win massively. Like, it was expected at least 3 goals from Spain, and then the goalkeeper from it was going to be a Spain Cabo Verde, and the goalkeeper of Cabo Verde came out and said, "No one is going to score in my team, for my team. No one is going to give me a goal." He stopped 7 goals from Spain. They could not score a single goal. The game ended 0-0, and it surprised everyone. It was incredible. The goalkeeper, is a star right now. Is everything everyone is talking about because he is valued at 50,000 euros, which is not a lot, whereas the players of Spain are some of the most expensive players out there in the whole tournament. Like, all the stars are playing for Spain, and Spain right now is the champion of Europe. They won their tournament that they do per continent, and in Spain is one of the favorites to win the whole World Cup. But I guess that is the beautiful part of this sport. Sometimes amazing things will happen that will just surprise everyone, and if you are a decent human being, you will always root for the underdog, for the small country, for the one that looks like it's not going to win. And then when they do something amazing like this, it's a great reason to celebrate and to, like, you feel that emotion, and we were all very happy for him. The name of the goalkeeper is Bocinha, and now everyone is following him. His real name is just Jose Josimar Diaz, and he's from Cabo Verde. He's 40 years old, which is also something unusual. Like, players aren't usually that old, but he was there to support his country. And his mom couldn't make it to the US because of the visa, because the US is charging $15,000 to people to enter the country. So much political things are happening within this World Cup that are just so upsetting. But that's another story. They're trying to get his mom to be able to come to see him play next, and he has been just a star. He went from like very few followers to from like 4,000 followers to like millions of people are following him now, and he is just the star and the the he won everyone's heart. So that was very, very emotional and very beautiful to see. That was a Cabo Verde against Spain, and it was quite the game, honestly, quite the surprise. One last thing that I will say about that: there was a guy that bet $1 million for Spain because Spain was expected to win, and this guy lost. He lost $1 million. Isn't that crazy? That's how luck works sometimes, I guess. But moving on, Belgium and Egypt, they tied 1-1. I guess it was expected. Not no one had a lot of expectations from either Belgium or Egypt, I guess. Maybe from Egypt, I think, but they ended up a tie 1-1. That was cool. Saudi Arabia and Uruguay tied also 1-1, and that was a surprise. I think they were expecting Uruguay to do better because Uruguay is usually one of the winners of the World Cup, but they tied 1-1. And then on that same Monday, Iran and New Zealand tied 2-2. And that game I watched because here's another side story of this World Cup and another political story. There's conflict between Iran and the US, a war, if you might. And so Iran is going to play all of their games here in the US. I think they're going to play in LA, in Seattle, and I don't know where else, but they're all here in the US. And they were expected to have their camp in Arizona. That's where they were going to stay, and that's where they were going to practice. But last minute, the US did not allow them to stay in the country, so they had to scramble to find a new place to stay before their matches and to like practice and all of that. And Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, said, yeah, they can stay in our country. And so they have been in Tijuana, Baja California, in the border between the US and Mexico. And Tijuana just kind of like took them, all I have been seeing is videos of Tijuana cheering them on, and giving them mariachi bands, of being outside there where they're practicing, and they have been practicing in Estadio Caliente, which is the estadio that hosts Los Cholos de Tijuana, de la Liga MX, obviously. And they left like a whole thing for them that says, welcome Iran, and it's in Spanish in their language, and in English it says bienvenidos Iran, todos están en casa. And that is pretty beautiful, and it has been pretty beautiful to see how Tijuana, because in Mexico we love these things, we love this sport, so we have been like the best. I'm sorry to say, but we have been the best host country so far. It has been party everywhere, and we have been like just embracing everyone that has been coming into our country. So everyone has been embracing Iran in Tijuana, Mexico. And so they had to leave Tijuana on the day of their match, which was June 15, that Monday. And that same Monday, they had to travel back from LA to Tijuana, which is a 2-hour drive. That kind of sucks, but whatever. But at least they have been taken care by the Mexicans, and they tied their game with New Zealand 2-2. And the other interesting thing about that game is that Team Payne played in New Zealand and played that game, and he became viral because a random influencer from Argentina just said, "Hey, what if we all start following this game?" And he randomly chose Team Payne from New Zealand, and he had his first match at the World Cup, and so that was very interesting. And then yesterday, Tuesday, was the turn for France and Senegal. France did what was expected of them. They won 3-1 to Senegal. That was sad, but it was what was expected. Two goals by Mbappe, one by Barcola, and then Senegal did get to score at least one goal, so that was that. And then Iraq and Norway. Norway scored 4 games, and what I have been hearing about Norway is that they're all 6 feet tall, so everyone looks tiny against them, and obviously they probably have long legs, so they run really fast, and they definitely have the advantage there. So they won 4-1. And then, of course, Argentina versus Algeria. Argentina also did what was expected of them. They won 3-0. There, this Messi, Lionel Messi. I'm not even going to get started on that. I'm not even going to try to explain why I don't like that guy, but he definitely had fouls that were worth red cards, but the referees just ignored it, and then he scored. I think he scored 2 goals, or maybe he scored all 3 goals of the match, which is pretty annoying. He should have had, yeah, he scored all 3 games. Oh, he scored all 3 goals of the game, even though they should have had kicked him out because he did red card worthy stuff during this game. Not cool. Argentina and Algeria, they played in New York, and apparently they were like, fans were going crazy. There were fights and a bunch of stuff. So New York has been seeing it, but that was that. I am upset about Lionel Messi. I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy. I will say it. And then the last game of the night last Tuesday was Austria and Jordan. Austria won 3-1, and it was the game happened at 11 p.m. Central time of Chicago for me, and so it was kind of late, and we were all making fun of how late it was and how we're supposed to work today, this morning, Wednesday morning, but we still watch it because we're committed, okay? And so those were the games so far. That is what has been happening with the World Cup. And I will make another video next Wednesday to talk about what happened the next week. I will have a lot to say about this Mexico South Africa that has me so nervous. Hopefully, we will win. And hopefully, by next Thursday, all of the teams will have already played at least their first game, because it has been a full week since the World Cup started, and not everyone has played all their matches. So that is that. A lot of countries, but also a good thing that it has been a good surprise that it has been so many countries, because we've been getting a lot of surprises. The Cabo Verde surprise, Curacao, we were very happy about. And so it has been interesting nonetheless. Everyone is happy about that. The last thing that I will say about this, that a lot of people have been talking about, is the water breaks. The cooling breaks is what they're calling it, because basically a match lasts 90 minutes, and they're broken up into 45 minutes each part of the game, and there is no ads. Famously, the game goes on, unlike games from the NFL and like baseball games where they do ad stops like every 5 seconds. So FIFA this time decided to add cooling breaks, and during those cooling breaks, they add ads. Like if you're watching it on TV, you'll see an ad while they do their cooling break. So everyone has been very upset about that, because they say that it's just an annoying way for them to like make more money and to add more ads for us, and so we don't get the viewer doesn't get to enjoy the game as much. So that has been very annoying, and has been something that has been getting talked a lot about during the last few days. How annoying that FIFA is just doing these things, just to make more money. Just whatever money they can make, they will try to make. But don't come for me, FIFA. But it is true. You fucked up. But don't come for me, please. I am peaceful. But that is what is going on so far. I will see you next week for another video about the World Cup.